sure everything's going. That's up and running. That's up and running. All right. I think it's about time I get this thing started. 3, 2, 1, let's jam. How's it going, guys? Another day here in UnBowed Studios, and I'm hanging out with the amazing... You're over that way. I have my cameras mirrored, and I'm always doing it. I'm hanging out with the amazing Justin. You're another one of those guys where I'm sitting here going, you know, you're a musician, you're a producer, you're starting your own studio, you're a writer, you're a, you know, so one, how does it feel wearing all those hats?
Feels pretty good. I mean, I'm just kind of guy that goes with the flow and takes the opportunities as they come and kind of works with everything that's going on in a kind of harmonious way. So
You are ridiculously one of the most chill guys I have ever met in my life. And, you know, like there's just that perfect picture of you hanging out in the middle of the woods right there.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm in my element.
so let's start at the beginning. How did you get into music?
Hmm. Uh, I think my family wasn't really into it, but I had a good friend who invited me over and took me into his jam room. His dad was a drummer, and he had like a whole studio there. And from that minute on, I was just hooked. I just had to pursue that and
Cool.
play instruments, and you know.
So did you go down a formal music education background? Did you get training, or are you self-taught, or?
Yeah, so like high school, I was in both the bands, concert band, jazz band. I played drums, and then ended up deciding that I wanted to pursue that further. So I ended up going to Western for music as well, and I kind of was opened up to different styles and different types of things. You know, I was playing drums, I was into like metal and stuff like that. And then once I got to Western, I joined a funk band and started playing bass. And yeah, from there, that's pretty much my formal education. Is that yeah?
Cool. And so okay, so we've hit drums, we've hit bass. Are there any other instruments you play?
Okay, well now, so I was in the funk band. After I left the funk band, I really got interested in synthesizers and like using electricity to shape sound and like just like it's just fascinating the way that we can design a current in a way that can
Mm-hmm.
do things exactly that we want, you know. And I bought a synthesizer. It was kind of my COVID project, and I've just been like totally into that, and I've been writing music with that. And so I guess yeah, I do play those as well, and I also teach too, so
Okay.
I know a bit of piano and keyboard and things like that, and obviously theory from school. So
Yeah. So very, very few musicians are, with the exception of vocalists. I'm going to get myself in trouble here for a minute. Very few musicians ever just play one instrument,
yeah,
you know, and I think that variety and the ability to hear the other sounds from the other instruments while you're composing, while you're writing is such a valuable tool.
yeah, oh yeah,
And I think that as, you know, producers, as, you know, what we're doing as well, the ability to have more tools in your toolbox to figure this out is such a blessing.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, just like learning different instruments. Like once you start doing it, it becomes easier to just pick up something else. You know, like I have a native flute that I just bought because I was like, this is really cool, and a guy in Hamilton makes them. And like as soon as I picked it up, you know, I could play it. You know,
Hmm.
it was easy because I've already done that with so many different instruments. Even though it's a wind instrument, it's totally different than drums or bass or guitar or whatever. So
Yeah, but once you've got the feeling behind the music, the you know, like this is what an A note is, this is what a, you know, then
yeah,
you're figuring out how to reproduce that on the instrument and then moving forward.
yeah.
That's cool. And let's talk about sort of some other, well, let's talk. Let's quickly touch on what sort of projects do you have in the works right now?
Okay, so my goal is to release an album every year. So last April I released an album, and then now I've got another album coming up in April.
Cool.
So it's that's kind of my goal as a personal, someone that's writing music for themselves, like as a solo artist. Just keep putting stuff out and keep experimenting and keep collaborating with people as well too. So
And okay, so first, where can people listen to your music?
just search my name on any on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify. I'm just on one of those distribution sites or whatever that just puts it out on everything. So if you search my first and last name, I'll be out there.
Perfect. And I know how I think about your music, but I don't matter. You do. How would you describe this new album? And we'll start that route. Like, so what direction and what space was this album coming from?
Cool. Yeah. So I think my solo music is kind of an unconventional type of music. It's really written for people like me, I guess, and people that really like dig into music and like those deep cuts and like the B sides kind of thing. It's not like a song you would hear on the radio. This is like something that someone would go after and really like immerse themselves in this soundscape of all like I do have a couple of tracks that are tunes as you like what I mean, like a
Mm-hmm.
song, but there's also like interlude type things like with the synthesizer. You just honestly, it's such a creative machine, and you just hear something and you're like, okay, I gotta just work off that idea, and just
Mm-hmm.
so I would say it's a bit different for sure. It's a lot of it's instrumental, and a lot of it's deep diving, and it kind of takes like a whole listen through the whole album. A lot of it's fades into each other. Like I like that idea of a concept album, like
Mm.
tracks relating to each other, and you know
Yeah,
movements and things like that.
I've always like was talking with a few people a couple of days ago. I think my favorite albums of all time, like if you look at a whole album, not just a single song, they're always concept albums. They're always something where
Yeah.
there's this theme, this concept, or interconnectivity running through the album. But
Hmm.
doesn't that make it a little bit harder for you as well to carry those themes and those strings through as it goes
I get
along?
I get what you're saying, but it's also me that's playing all of these things. So like just that, being a musician, like right now I've just been playing like so much with so many other people. I'm just but I have like these certain melodies and these certain like when I write music, it's like coming from me, and since I'm doing it all, it's not really hard to follow that because I'm going through life and I'm reflecting on what's happening through the music, and it just flows.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens and it works. You know, so it's not. I don't find it difficult to try and create something like that because I think all my music relates to itself because it's from me. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Like I can definitely see that, and I think that maybe people get a little daunted when the idea of a concept album. Oh,
Uh-oh, hold on.
oh.
I'm getting a phone call there. Okay,
Even better. The wind blew and things went a little bit, and then I thought we'd just completely lost you.
the wind blew. Oh, it's windy here, but
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
So where were we? Oh. Um. Nope. Give it a second.
we were talking about just trying to create like a concept album, right?
Yeah. I think that some people can find it daunting, when looking at everything that needs to go into a concept album. But I find that if there's if you're working if you're in a band or whatever and you're working together and that harmony sitting there, or when you're doing it by yourself, you look at guys like Phil Collins and other ones, like who literally do everything for the album.
Yeah,
You know, I think you just need to. Well, let me ask you, how did you start this off as a concept album, or did it just evolve that way?
Well, I've always liked that idea, so I always have it in the back of my head, you know. But yeah, yeah, totally just evolves. Yeah,
Okay.
like I'll record one track and then I'll start fiddling around, try to write something else, and I'll be like, you know what? That's kind of like the same key, like that kind of relates. Let's figure out a way to flow this into it, you know. So definitely evolves, and but it's always in the back of my head because I do love that. Anyone that appreciates albums like
Hmm.
as a whole, you know, looks for that. So what I would say to people that want to go check out my music, check out the whole album and just kind of be in a quiet space and breathe and just feel it. You know, that's
That.
it's a more of an intensive listening. You know,
Hmm. I,
that's kind of designed for.
I think that that's one of my favorite things, but it's also one of the most daunting things as somebody who's sort of on the other side and presenting the music. I get people who are like, "Oh, come on, check out my album and stuff," and it usually takes me 2 or 3 weeks to get around to somebody to listen to their music. Not because I don't want to listen to it. I love getting new music. I love doing things, but I think that music deserves its own time.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I want to just sit there. I want to turn the lights off. I want to put, I want to use my good speakers and the whole deal and just
Yeah,
experience the album. And I think so many people are just experiencing it on the go,
yeah,
while they're doing something else. And I think that we need to for your own personal mental health, find those moments to just sit down and enjoy the music. The
yeah.
only thing.
What
No, please go ahead. Sorry, before I interrupt.
this music is, you know, for people that do that. You
Hmm.
know, like people like they have short attention spans now, and like I made a TikTok account because my friend came up to my studio and he posted a video and it got like 28,000 views on it
Hmm.
or 28,000 likes or whatever, and he's like, you got to make a TikTok, and I'm trying to do it like these quick shortcuts, and I'm like, this isn't like it's hard.
This isn't
I'm
me.
trying to
I
find
can't
a way
do
to
it.
do it. This isn't me. Like you said, I want to reach people that will, you know, go in a quiet room, put their good speakers on, and turn the lights low, and just breathe and just feel it. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm for. So it's hard for me, but I'm kind of learning
For
how to do it
for
and
the
be fun.
music crowd, however, I think I'm about to say something controversial. As long as you don't start turning into Philip Glass, we'll be fine.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Thank you. You got yeah. Uh, so you mentioned the studio, so that's a wonderful transition point.
Sure.
Let's talk about this studio because I'm gonna try and find a way to put some pictures up of this thing during the edit because what
Well, I've
you,
got it on a swivel. I've got a swivel here, so I can kind of.
please give us a 360.
Oh, okay, let's do it. Okay.
First time in
So yeah,
Unbowed history.
it's yeah a literal 360 because I'm in a yurt, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, here, let me move back a bit. This is kind of my music area here. I don't know if that is working out. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. There's your production area.
Well, my monitors. I got a little drum set up in the back behind my keyboards there,
Aw, dude.
and then I kind of went kind of ham. And yesterday was a nice day, so I chopped a shitload of wood and like look at I need to build a wood rack. So,
um,
but yeah, anyway,
yeah, that
I got
is.
my window, and then I got my windows out here. Yeah, so I can yeah, I can tell you about the whole idea of it.
Please, once you grab a seat and
Yeah, am I good there?
uh,
Did that okay? That
yeah, you're
360.
that was great. That was fun. We should do this more when we have more people in studios. So
Yeah,
what's the concept behind this one?
cool. So yeah, so I am just sick and tired of being in a square space with corners. You know, I just want to be in this circular, harmonious place. So, what better spot than to get a yurt and put it up and live in here? You know, like this is the creative space. So basically, my first thought with music recording, you know, if you have a circular space, you don't have corners where sound waves will get trapped. You know, like things are fluid, they're flowing, they're so
Mhm.
that really drew me to do a yurt because the acoustics in here are great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and also the insulation is wool, so it's very like dampened, nice sounding room in here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the idea here is I want to build something. When you go into a recording studio as a musician, it's very corporate. Like it's business. You got to get your stuff done on time. Like make sure you use all your time you have with the engineer accordingly. You got to really. It's a very kind of strict, intense environment. Whereas in here, you're in the elements, you're comfortable, which is really where you're going to create the best sounding music is when you're comfortable, and that's especially apparent with vocalists. Like
Mm-hmm.
as a producer, you always want to make your vocalist comfortable, make sure they're they feel safe, they feel not judged, like things like that. Whereas here, you can rent this space out and you can be in the elements here and really create something that's from the heart,
Mm-hmm.
something that is away from all that corporate, hierarchy of head engineer. Like it's just I've been in studios and not all of them, obviously some of them are pretty freaking cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's kind of taking away that stigma of like the corporate environment to make music. It shouldn't be like that, right?
Well, I think you hit on it, and it's an area that I want to get into because, and I'll explain in a minute. But you're talking about, I hate the term, but a safe space. Because
Yeah.
when you're making music, when you're putting it down, when you're creating that sound, it's a vulnerable place.
Yeah.
And you mentioned vocalists, and one of my biggest sort of pet peeves with a lot of bands. I love the everything that's going on with YouTube and taking it away from sort of that corporate environment, as you said. But when you're doing it on your own, there's nobody there to push you just a little bit further, push you out of your comfort zone. You're going to stay in your pocket, and the best vocals are the ones that come when you're exposed.
Yeah.
But it's not just vocalists. Anybody who's making music, when they're in that space. And I think that as producers, it's the job to get them to that. And
Yeah.
when you're in, as you described it, and any, yes, there are some great places out there. Some buddies of our G and the guys at Road Waves, the Brick House studio that they've been working into is a really cool space and whatnot. But it's still that box,
Yeah.
and there's still a guy behind a glass wall telling you what to do.
Yeah.
So this space is kind of the inversion of that.
Yeah. It's designed to be kind of an inspiration lab,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in near Collingwood, so it's like I'm out here, like the stars are phenomenal. I've got a skylight. I didn't show that in the clip, but I mean you can walk behind me. We've got like 20 acres of forest behind, so
Yeah.
it's sometimes you need a break too, right? So there's space for that as well. You can you've been at it hard. You've workshopping a tune for hours. Go take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Go for and just be one with what the present and what's happening, right?
So let's get into the nitty gritties a little bit, because I think that this is, particularly as we're moving out of the pandemic and isolation phase, and we're now starting to get back into that in presence space of creating music. As a producer, as a you're doing your own sound engineering, that sort of stuff. How do you go about getting artists outside of the pocket?
That's a hard. I'm not sure what you mean by the pocket. Was that like a rhythmic? That's a rhythmical term, so I don't
No,
know.
no, no, no. Actually, for me, it's a boxing and MMA term. The
Oh,
pocket is when you're. It's that nice little comfort zone where you're protected, but you can get in there and do your thing. But you're still like, that's your comfort zone. You want to sort of hit the pocket and stay in the pocket, but particularly in
So
music and in fighting and other things, you've got to come out of there a little bit, because that's where you're going to get the big strike from, the big, you know. So you see it a lot with YouTube artists and things like that, or people who are doing it all themselves. They find themselves a nice little comfortable space to
yeah.
stay in, and
Hmm.
they're making good music in that nice little comfortable space. But as somebody like me, somebody like you can sit there and go, I need you more here, give me a little bit more, find that emotion, find that connection.
Well, so I put this up in November. So this is all a work in progress, you know. And I'm a very fluid, flowing type of guy. Like I want to work with what's coming
Mm-hmm.
and just move in life, you know. Just keep moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it is very comfortable, but yeah, I do have plans to do other things. I want to build a little something, another little building right beside it over here that I can use. Maybe have an isolation booth or something, or I don't know. Like I'm, it's a work in progress, which is the fun thing about this too, because it's I'm not just set on something. This is a learning experience. It's I'm doing a lot of this stuff myself, and I'm learning how to do it. And now it's good for I have wisdom, I have experience. Like so, it's just it costs money to do all this, but it's also teaching me a lot. It's not just a cut and dry thing. I'm still learning and creating, and it's just an ongoing process, which is what I love about it.
And I think that as we move into these, people can't be afraid to take those chances and to do things like this. And I am so looking forward to seeing one. I want to come down there and see what you're doing and stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing. Sorry, before I cut you off.
yeah, no worries. And also, I forgot to mention it's powered by solar too, which is cool.
I
So I'm completely off grid.
That's cool. I really wanted to talk to you off camera and for the personal things, because UnBowed Studios is going to be building a recording studio. UnBowed Productions is going to be making a studio. I think that
Oh,
yeah, that sounds better. And me being me, I'm very very concerned about environmental impact and reducing footprint. So for me, looking at what you're doing and using natural products as the sound buffer, and so no, like it's how important was that to you in your overall design philosophy?
oh, it's super important. Super important. I wanted this thing to be. It's modular as well. I didn't mention that. You can take it apart and move it.
Cool.
So what it's built on is built into four sections that'll fit, on a trailer, and bye bye.
Hmm.
So to me, I want to be off grid. I want to be. This is a base. This has everything I need. And it is a work in progress as well, right? So I'm going to be putting a little well in. Luckily, the water here is pretty high.
Hmm.
Like when I was digging the post holes for the supports, it was filling up with water. So I don't have to dig that low to start getting some groundwater.
Nice.
So I mean, yeah, the whole idea for me is just as a standalone place in nature. Like
Mhm.
you don't. I'm not dependent on anything.
Yeah, and I think that moving more towards that harmony with nature is going to be very important as we move forward.
Well, a lot of people are doing it now. Like and the products they're building, for solar generators or whatever, it's just every year. Like they're coming out with better and better stuff. So it honestly, like even if you're on the grid, get a solar generator and power your TV and your lights and all that stuff. Like you could totally do it, and it doesn't cost like an arm and a leg. It's an investment, but
Yeah, but it also it the return on investment, and we can head down that rabbit hole at other points, because I really want to talk about. So, but what sort of where we're going with this is, I do want to switch gears
sure,
to sort of the pandemic and stuff, and it's not the happiest thing to talk about, but it's affected so much of what we do. So
yeah,
so before we get into sort of the studio and things like that, how are you doing? And how
Oh,
did you make it through it?
now I'm doing great. I'm like, as soon as things opened up, I'm getting calls like I'm booked every weekend. It's crazy.
Nice.
Like, so now it's fine. And you know what? I don't I speak on myself, but I think it was kind of nice just to take a break from playing shows and hone your craft.
Hmm.
Like create stuff, practice, get better. Like it was kind of time needed to do that. Because when you're playing shows all the time, like I was in a touring band, right, after funk, and like we never rehearsed. We like, of course we did if we had like a tribute show or something, but we didn't really have like just let's grow as a band rehearsals. We just kind of played shows, and that was our rehearsal.
Hmm.
So it was kind of a good way to step back and and I think a lot of bands are coming out with really cool stuff right now because they had that time to sit with your three guys, your bandmates, and make something really cool and really dive into it and pick away at the details, right?
Hmm.
So I think that part of it was pretty good. So, but yeah, obviously venues and things were hurt, and bands. If you're doing that for as a full time thing, then that's tough.
So when you're creating a studio and you're doing the album stuff, because you said you released an album last April. So that was right in the middle of it, and then you get the idea and the concept to create this studio out in the middle. How was that affected by? Did you find that it was because you had the time to think about these projects and work on, or was it delayed because of? Oop, we've hit the pause. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like we've
I
lost.
hope
Oh,
get.
oh, hold on. You might be back.
Are we still here? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, I'm back. I said that's a great question because I do think that yeah it prompted me to buy this synthesizer, which has really just opened up a whole can of worms with sound design and production and that kind of thing. So I think in a way, yeah, it definitely did push me to this direction.
Cool.
And I'm on a farm too, like an organic like homesteading farm. So it's kind of that and I came here before I put the year here. So it's kind of pushed me to that self dependency and doing things for myself rather than working and making money so I can buy things. It's a more burdensome life,
Mm-hmm.
but it's great. I'm chopping wood, which is a lot of work. Yesterday I probably spent like 5 hours cutting down dead trees and chopping them up, and so I can stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of brings you back to that. So it's like you're putting in the work you put in is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really become interested in that type of lifestyle the past few years. But yeah, in terms of COVID, I think yeah, it might have pushed me a bit to kind of just, and even now with food shortages, I don't want to get political, but it's we're thinking about it and we want to be self sufficient as best we can, right? So
And yeah, and I think that I don't think it's political to say that the prices of things have gone up. You talked about being in a touring band. I've been talking to a couple of touring bands, and the second you mention gas, you just see people start to cry a little on the inside.
yeah, yeah,
So I think these are things that like I'm old enough, and I think you're old enough to remember the term like post 9/11 world.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that we are very much, particularly as artists, as a community, we're in a post-COVID world. And as artists, as an artist community, we need to be pulling together with each other, even if it's just for support.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
We can all commiserate about filling up the tank.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, now it's an online thing. And
Mm-hmm.
my kind of philosophy with music is it's never really been about money for me. The money is a great thing. Like I love playing gigs and getting paid, but I will do a gig for little money, You know, it's totally not about that for me. And I think, like, I'm blessed that I'm in that position that I can, deal with that.
Hmm.
But I just that's kind of my philosophy.
I do want to touch on it, and thank you for segueing into it. The change into an online space, you know, moving away from the you and I are both huge fans of corporate media and the record labels and stuff like that. So it's nice to see things shifting away from that and people taking power back to themselves. And
Yeah.
that's a huge part of what the philosophy of Unbowed Productions was founded on, was giving that power and helping support people into it. But how have you shifted? You know, like I know that when you were with Afterfunk and stuff like that, it was still part of that sort of traditional, lack of a better term, rat race. You went to the
Yeah.
studio, you put the album out, you toured to support the album, you sold the album while you were there, da 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 da. Um,
Exactly.
try and get it played on radio, try and get all that sort of stuff. But and that wasn't even that long ago. I met you guys 5 years ago, maybe. And to look at how things were then and how they've changed to now, and how have you adapted with that?
Honestly, I think this is a better place for me because touring is it's hard, man. Like it just was taking a toll on my mind, my body. I just didn't feel. I think this is where I belong. This is and like I would love to go on tour again. I sincerely would love that. It's just the constant rat race that I think is just it just kills you. And I mean, if that's what you want to do to make it, and that's what you think is important, then go for it. I'm not saying don't do it, but for me personally, this is where my heart is, and this is where I belong. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I still play locally all the time. It's not like it's gone. That part of me is gone, and I would still love to do another tour, for sure. Right? Who doesn't love touring? It's freaking
Mm-hmm.
fun.
It is, but I think that now that we have the ability to put ourselves out there, to
Yeah.
YouTube, TikTok, I've said it multiple times. I think that with TikTok adding that 3-minute feature, particularly for musicians, that's going to be huge.
Okay. I'm new, so I don't know, but yeah.
I've only been on there for like a month.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
I've been looking into it, and then the 3-minute feature is new, and I'm just like, ooh, I want to play with this. Um, but the only thing that I worry, and I want to get your thoughts on it, is that it's going to become just as easy to get stuck in that rat race of, I have to produce something, I have to put something out, I have to do something today, da 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 da. Which is just a reincarnation of everything we just moved away from.
Yeah. It is and it is in a different sense a bit. I mean, you got to set timelines for yourself and goals.
Hmm.
But the whole touring is just you're putting in miles. Like that's harder than doing this,
Hmm.
you know.
Okay.
But yeah, that makes sense.
The last thing I sort of want to touch on, and I know I've taken up a lot of your time, so we'll do one thing. The only thing you touched on it, and it's always in the back of my head, and I don't get to talk about it nearly as much. And what I really want to do is get a bunch of guys who all think about it and talk about soundscape and sound crafting of an album. And you touched on it. You touched on it with the synthesizer. How important is that to you now? And in crafting how that sound works.
It's just so important to me now. Like ever since I got this synthesizer, it's like I could sit in here and it's great because I'm in this really cool place to do it. But I can sit at there and fine tune. The thing with I don't know if you know much about synthesizers, but you know how many like knobs are on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I love just sitting here in front of my monitors, have it turned up pretty good, and just turning one knob and see, okay, what does that do? You know,
Mm-hmm.
dialing into deep synthesis like that. I think that's super cool, and it's really piqued my interest. Just they're just amazing instruments that are just you don't even have to be a musician to play them. You can totally just if you read the manual, you turn knobs and see what they do, and then just go from there. You could totally do that.
Cool.
So it's a creative machine. So
And I think to me, like, most music consumers are not aware of the craft that goes into creating a soundscape and everything. But when it's absent or not as cared for,
yeah,
its absence is incredibly felt. And I think that the more we
wait.
can encourage artists to.
Well, it's the same thing with bass. You listen to a song, you don't even hear the bass, right? And then it's gone, and you're like, something's not right. You know. So that's the same analogy. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think that maybe in the near future we'll do a round table here at Unbowed, because I've got a bunch of bands and friends who are very much into creating that soundscape, and I
Cool.
think it would be just kind of cool to have everybody, even if you're not anywhere near the same genre and style, but it's the same concept.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Let
We'll set that up.
me know. Yeah, I'm in.
All right.
This was fun.
All right, my dude. I have taken up a good chunk of your time, and I really want to thank you for coming here. And well, not coming here. I mean, you're sitting in a really awesome spot, but sitting down with me and having this great conversation.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna give the shout out. Like, please go find Justin on all of Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. I'm gonna have the links down below, or maybe over there. We'll see where they fit. I'm still getting used to that part of it. And in April, when in April is your new album dropping? Do you know yet?
20th, I think.
Say that again, sorry.
April 20th.
April
That
20th.
was the last year, so
That's
that's the proposed date.
that's the other fun thing I think that a lot of here's a peek behind the curtain right before we go. Whenever I talk to artists, I've gotten so much feedback where they're like, "Well, how come they don't know when the album drops?" I'm like, nobody knows when the album drops.
Yeah.
You get like a 2-3 week notice maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
So, all right, my dude, thank you so much. And my name is David. This is Unbowed. We will see you soon.
Thanks for having me, David.